Okay, we are going to be talking about angle sums in triangles. Okay, so one thing we need to remember whenever we see the word sum, okay, that means we are adding things, right? Sum is the answer when we are using addition. Okay, so we're going to be adding these angles in triangles up today. Okay, so the first cardinal rule, as we see all these triangles and we're going to be working with them, is we need to remember that in a triangle, there are always three angles. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now all of these angles added together always equal 180 degrees, always. Okay, so now that we know that, let's go ahead and look at number 1. Okay, so if all three of these angles equal 180, and it gives me two angle measures that I know, 50 degrees and 75 degrees, that means we're trying to find this third angle there. Okay, well, there's a couple ways we can solve this. First of all, we can start with our total number of angles, which is 180 degrees, right? We start with 180 degrees and we take away or subtract in order to find that third angle. Okay, so we're going to take away what it gives us, subtract 75, subtract 50, and that's going to give us our third angle. So if we go ahead and do this in a calculator, let me just grab my calculator. Okay, we can do 180 minus 75 minus 50. And we know that that third angle is going to equal 55 degrees. Okay, so that's the first way where we're kind of going backwards. We're using subtraction in order to find the answer. Okay, well now let's use addition. Okay, so let's add up the two angles that it gives us. 75 plus 50. Okay, and what is that going to be? Well, 75 plus 50, 75 plus 50 gives me 125. Okay, now we can take 180 and subtract, kind of doing the same thing we did, subtract those two angles. And again, that is going to give me, so let's check it just to make sure, 125. And yes, I get the same answer of 55. So you can subtract the two at first, or you can add them together and then subtract. Kind of two options there. Personally, I like just subtracting the two from the get-go. Okay, so let's look at number 2. Alrighty, so it gives us two angles, 132 and 24. So we're going to start with our total number of degrees, 180. Subtract what it gives me, so I have been given 132 and 24. And what is that going to give me? Remember to always start with 180, always, always. So 180 minus 132 minus 24, and that actually gives me 24. So we know that this guy is 24 degrees. Okay, and I'll go ahead and write 55 degrees for this guy that we found. And there we go. Perfect. So let's do the same thing for number 3. Again, we're given a triangle. All triangles always have 180 degrees. So it gives me these two angles, 22 and 133. So we're going to start with our total number of degrees and subtract. Minus 133 minus 22. And what is that going to give me? We can go ahead and do it in our calculator. 180 minus 133 minus 22. And I know that my third angle is 25 degrees. So this third angle right there, we know is 25 degrees. Perfect. Okay, let's do that one more time where we're just given two angles, we're trying to find the third. Okay, so we're given a triangle, two angles in the triangle. Start with our total number of degrees, 180. Subtract 70, subtract 60, and it doesn't matter which one you subtract first. Okay, I could have subtracted the 60 first, does not matter. Okay, so we're trying to find that third angle. So I'm going to start with 180 minus 70 minus 60. And I know that my third angle has to be 50 degrees. So 50 degrees. Beautiful. Okay, so now for the next ones. Now we're not just asked to find the missing angle, we're actually asked to solve for x. Well, we know how to solve for x. You guys know how to solve equations. Okay, so we're gonna start by doing the same thing. Okay, so notice that it gives me two angles, and I'm asked to find the third angle. Well, let's just pretend that that's not even an equation, and let's just go ahead and change it with a question mark, just like the other ones we were doing. Okay, so let's just find what this question mark, what this total angle is. Okay, so same exact way. Start with your total number of degrees, 180. Subtract what it gives you, 61 minus 78. And what is that third angle going to be? Okay, well, let's put it in our calculator. Got 180 minus 61 minus 78. And I know that my third angle, or the one we marked with a question mark, is going to be 41 degrees. Okay, but remember, that's not what it's asking us to find. So we know that this equals 41 degrees, but we're asked to solve for x. So now we actually take the equation that it gave us, 10x plus 1, and set it equal to what we find, 41 degrees. Now we can go ahead and solve for x. So this should look very familiar. So if I'm solving for x, I'm looking at my side with my x. I need to get rid of a times by 10 and a plus 1. Well, the plus 1 is what I need to get rid of first because it's farthest away. So the opposite of plus 1 is subtract 1 from both sides. 10x is left over. 41 minus 1 is 40. Okay, now my very last step, opposite of times by 10 is divide by 10. That gets rid of it. Do the same thing to both sides. And I get x is equal to 40 divided by 10 is 4. And there we go. So we had to find what that third angle was in order to solve for x. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that again. So number 6, it's giving me two angles, 1, 2. So let's start with our total number of degrees, 180. Minus 75, minus 69. And what is that third angle, which again, we're just gonna mark it with a question mark for now. Just pretend that that equation isn't really there right now. Okay, so let's figure out what is that third angle. Okay, so I got 180 minus 75 minus 69, and that gives me 36. So I know that this guy has to equal 36 degrees. And that's going to help us when solving for x. Okay, so now let's take the equation that it gave us, 7x plus 1, and we're going to set it equal to what we found, 36 degrees. And now we can go ahead and solve for that x. Opposite of plus 1, right? We have to get rid of the plus 1 first. It's on my side with my x. It's farthest away. So the opposite of plus 1 is subtract 1. I get 7x equals 36 minus 1 is 35. And now I have one more step for getting my x by itself. The opposite of times by 7 is divide by 7. And my x is equal to 35 divided by 7 is 5. And there we go. We solved for x. Okay, now let's look at number 7. We're going to do this 2 more times. So it gives us two angles that we know. Okay, we don't know the third angle with that equation in it, so we're just going to mark it with a question mark. And we're going to find out what that third angle is equal to. Okay, so start with your total number of degrees, 180 minus 60 minus 40. Is going to be equal to what? Okay, well, let's do it. 180 minus 60 minus 40. And that's going to give me 80 degrees. So we know that that third angle has to equal 80 degrees. Okay, well, in order to solve for x, let's take the equation that it gives us, 7x plus 10, set it equal to our 80 degrees, and solve for x. Okay, so now we're looking at this side. So what's farthest away from my x is the plus 10. Opposite of plus 10 is subtract 10 from both sides. I get 7x is equal to 80 minus 10 is 70. Okay, and my very last step, the opposite of times by 7. Divide by 7. So x is equal to 70 divided by 7, which is 10. Perfect. Okay, beautiful. One last example, number 8. Okay, so it gives us two angles that we know. We don't know the third angle, which is where our x is. Okay, so let's go ahead and find out what that third angle has to equal. Okay, so I have 180 minus 69 minus 67. And what is that going to give me? What does that third angle have to be? 180 minus 69 minus 67. And I know that third angle has to equal 44 degrees. Okay, so this angle up here has to be 44 degrees. So in order to solve for x, let's take the equation that it gives us. X plus 50 equals 44, which we found. Okay, well, this guy's kind of a simple equation. There's only one thing I have to do to get rid of my x, or get my x all by itself, excuse me. Opposite of plus 50 is subtract 50 from both sides. So x is equal to 44 minus 50 is going to be negative 6. And if you're wondering, well, Ms. Campbell, how can it be a negative degrees? It's not. Remember, this is the equation that's going to have it equal 44. So if I were to plug in that negative 6 plus 50, yes, that would give me 44 degrees. So our x equals negative 6. All right, you guys, those are your notes for today. There is an assignment that goes with it. Thanks.